healing and salvation. Even at a tender age, he invaded the temple and taught the doctors and lawyers who were entrenched in the old traditions. He found his way to the seaside and intruded upon the life of the commonest of laborers, saying, "Follow me." Wherever he went, he challenged, uprooted, and changed men. And at length they nailed him to a cross because he had upset their selfish, secure, smug way of life. Not only was Jesus a missionary, but he pledged his followers to be missionaries too. "Follow me," he said to Peter, James, and John, "and I will make you to become fishers of men." The words apostle and missionary mean the same thing. One who is sent.
When we were launched out that May at the conference, as we were standing on the stage, immediately I knew Junction 6 of the M6, but it was definitely going to be Erdington. Pioneering caused lots and lots of setbacks. After the first year, we had a church split. We were burgled numbers of times. One weekend we were burgled 4 times in 24 hours. And as you know, the Friendship Hall is right next door to the police station. We were offered by the council to buy the building. I put it down simply to the fact that Pastor Rob Walsh challenged me about taking care. We cleaned the office, and the very next thing that happened was a major miracle in the life of the Erdington Church. They were a breath of fresh air. Were willing to work with people, genuine converts, sometimes a little bit of hassle. And then Lawrence Sasanga came to the church.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Wait, hang on, stop. Babe,
What?
you have to match the energy. I beg you.
What energy are we matching?
He's like, hello, and you're sat there.
I might have to do I might have to do bloopers. I can't lie.
What?
'Cause,
Why do both of us to speak at the same time? Oh my days.
Hello, guys.
Hello, Sesanga Lawrence. We in Worcester with my wife, my family, since 2022 COVID conference, and we we are pioneering a church in Worcester. Yeah.
Nice.
By 2022, you mean 2020, right? Well, I got saved in August 2003. And I had just moved to Birmingham in some very precarious circumstances in the middle of the night with my pajamas on and my house slippers. And my auntie had got invited to a little church, but she didn't want to go by herself. And so I thought I'd come with her. And so when I came in, I'm not even going to lie, like, it was interesting because I think we walked in and it was song service. It was, it was one of the most interesting song services I'd ever witnessed, because at that point we had a drum machine that had a mind of its own. And so, but something about the place made me think, I think I'll come back. And so I can't remember any of the sermons because I didn't really understand them for the first 2 weeks. And then I think 2 weeks after that, Pastor Alan Taylor came to do a revival. He used to come and do revivals every year in the summer at that time. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, who has told this man about my life? And I remember looking around quite suspiciously and thinking, wait, no one here knows you. And then I remember at the end, he then asked if, I wanted to get my heart right with Christ. And I did.
Yeah, for me, I came to live with my mom in Erdington, not far from church. But my mom always lived with other people in her house. So one of the ladies that lived in the house with us had been invited to the Potters House Church to a concert, but had never actually gone. So on one of those days, she was like, "Oh, let's go to the church in the Little Erdington come with me, and we came to the concert. I didn't get saved in the concert, but I thought it was a very interesting place to go to. And over the next couple of months, every time I was free, I would come down to the church, or when people come knocking on my door. I made the mistake of telling them where I lived. So they always knocked on my door, shouted my name embarrassingly. So but gradually.
Yep, so my name's Carlton.
And my name is Nicole.
And your roles?
Her husband. So we're in the West Brom Church out of Erdington. Growing up, I'd always been interested in religion. I was going to a Catholic school, so we'd go to Mass and confession and things like that. I had a few friends who were Muslims, family members who were Jehovah's Witnesses. And one of the things that I realised is that none of these religions were making any difference to who I was. It was almost as if the more I learned about these different religions, the worse of a person I became. And so it was only when someone really witnessed to me, someone had recorded a cassette tape for me with his testimony, witnessing to me, speaking about the end times. I just remember hearing that and just knowing that if I was to stand before God, that there would be nothing I could do to persuade him to let me into heaven or anything like that. And so it had to be because of something that he had done for me, as opposed to something I could do for him.
I got saved in 2015, January 2015. So I was a single mom, just broken, had lived all kind of chaotic lives, like anything you can think of, basically. And I was just so broken. I tried everything and nothing worked. And I was moving into a house in Warsaw, and a lady in the Warsaw church who was walking past the house, and she just stopped and started speaking to me. And she just said, it was a Wednesday, I think, and she just said, would you like to come to church tonight? And yeah, I was like, okay, I'll come. I think the reason why I said that is because I tried everything and I just needed something. I was just desperate. I didn't know what I needed, but I was just so broken. I was just being rejected. The guy that I'd had a baby with didn't want anything to do with me. And yeah, so I came to church. And that was it for me. Like, everyone was so different. Everyone was just accepting. I didn't feel judged. There was just a peace that I can't explain. And yeah, the ladies just worked with me, and they were really so patient with me. They were gracious with me. And yeah, I just made it my family. Like, it was a family that God gifted me, and I never looked back.
We just praise the Lord because, see, life begets life. We begin to minister, we begin to witness, we begin to just share people the gospel of Jesus Christ. Shepherds do not beget sheep, sheep beget sheep. God enabled us to touch people's lives. There's two young men, one of them is pastoring in the city of Douglas today. Came into our service, had 6 people, and got saved and gave his heart to Jesus Christ. Another young man where he worked got saved. 2 young girls from Pueblo High School down the street from us got saved. And that life, you see, begets life. And I begin to share, God wants to work through you. And the life that God had placed in me, God transmitted to them. And they begin to witness. They begin to share with their friends what God could do in their lives and what Jesus was all about. And glory to God, they got hooked too.
I'm just like unstable on stage for the first
The first few minutes, eh?
Alright. Hi guys. My name is Terrence. Terrence Umpire. Been in Erdington church since 2007 until I was sent out. And yeah. On my case, my first point of salvation, when I first got saved, was way back when I was still a teenager. I was in Zambia. I was in something like year 8 or so. So my elder brother took me to this church. It was a Pentecostal church. One of these churches, in Africa. But it was called the Winners Chapel. And there, I didn't hear the preaching or anything. But at the end, as I pulled the altar call, it suddenly struck in my mind to say that there's a heaven, there's a hell. Anything can happen today. Do I know where I'm going? But I lifted up my hand, got saved then, went back into the world, till I found my way into Erdington in 2007. Rededicated my life, gave my life to Christ again, and it's been a wonderful ride since then. And I understood that I really needed Jesus. And just lifted up my hand, prayed, got saved.
Sick. That's good. How about you, Liz?
Myself, I was saved 2004 when I was in Zimbabwe. It was during Easter time.
Yeah.
I think it was 11 April. So I remember the date on Sunday. Then from there, back home you just get saved and no one follows you up. So there was a big difference when I started coming to Potters House. I could see the welcoming of people and to follow up the way we follow people, the way we do fellowship. From then I just started growing and knowing God more. Before, when I got saved, it was just I'm saved and that was it. No one really followed me up and see how I was doing.
Asha 3 times. Honestly, no. I beat Asha 3 times with the Phoenix. Asha had the Phoenix. I had you with Payment, and then beat him 3 times in a row. In it. No. You beat me 2 times in a row. Then I used it.
Natalie.
My name's Wesley. Got sent from Erdington into the nice town of Warsaw to take over the church from the Bennetts, and sent there in 2018, accompanied by my lovely wife. So I was 15, and it was actually the Easter holidays, about 2008 in Sutton Coldfield, where it was actually Jamie that was street preaching, and then he approached me and my 2 friends, witnessed to us. I prayed, and I felt different. I just felt different. Didn't really know what it was, but I understood that God's real. And then I don't know where those 2 friends are now, but went to a couple of church services in Erdington, and then I just kind of left. Then it was 3 years that I was basically running from God, and got into more trouble than I'd ever done before. Just fights, arrested, gangs. And then when I was 18, I just said I can't run anymore. I know that God is real. I know what that man said to me was true. And then I came to Jesus fully. I fully committed my life in a revival with Evangelist Ben Dekker from Holland. He was in Warsaw for revival, and then I gave my life to Christ, like fully surrendered in that service. I remember it, and I just said, I'm not running anymore. This is it now. This is it for me. I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna get rid of old friends, old habits. I'm not gonna do them anymore. And I surrendered then in 2012, and then that was when I was 18.
I think like when I came to church, I had never really been to church before, so for me it was kind of like I came into church, and it was very welcoming, and I didn't really know like the way of church, and so there were people there like Vanessa, like Louise, who just really took me under their wing and helped me to like learn and understand the Bible and have good relationships, healthy relationships. And I would say, like, I always think like church was a place where you could like make mistakes, but in sort of like a safe environment. So like Like they would still love me, they would still encourage me, and there was times where I would get things really wrong, but they were there. And coming to church was obviously the best thing that ever happened to me. And then we took over in Warsaw. I don't know how long I've actually been in Erdington.
You got saved in 2014 November. We started dating in April of 2015, and then engaged in May 2015, and then got married in September 2015.
Speedy Gonzalez.
2015, 16, 17, and then got sent out in 2018.
Rapido.
When I was like 8 months pregnant with Asher.
Yeah.
And then we went to Warsaw, and so I wouldn't say it was like a terribly long time in the mother church.
About 4 years.
Yeah, about 4 years.
So now you've been in Warsaw
longer
than you've been in Erdington.
That's actually, when you think about that, that's actually a crazy thought. No, this is take 2 because I didn't record. So
sure. I'm Lewis. This is Charlotte. We came to Erdington in 2013. I became the pastor of the church then and since then, and we have 4 children, happily married, and life is good. We came firstly to church when I was a boy, and just pre-teens. My parents came to church because they had issues and they had no answers to addiction and problems in their marriage and in themselves, and there was lots of love and they cared about us a lot, but there was lots of underlying problems that they just couldn't resolve. They cried out to God. Jesus saved them, and me and my brothers very quickly witnessed a miracle in who they were and who they became, and how God helped them and changed them. And we realized that these people in church had something that we didn't have, and it just that strong reference point gave me such a strong foundation to saying, this is what I want to do with my life, or this is what my life should become. This is what it should be based around. And so I didn't understand everything at the time, but I did understand the foundation that this is where I need to build my life. Through Jesus.
I've been in this fellowship my entire life, and my parents were saved in the Norwich congregation. They got married in the Norwich congregation. After a few years of marriage, they got sent out and pioneered. They came back for redirection, and unfortunately things just didn't go very well. Their marriage fell apart, and so that left my mum and my 3 brothers, and my dad left the family home. And my dad was very good to us, so he always stayed in our life, was very consistent. We're very blessed for that. But my mum stayed faithful to church. She didn't waver. She was incredibly strong, and she is such a reference point for me and my brothers. Personally, I'm growing up in church. I'd hear sermons, I'd hear preaching. You see the spirit of the church, and I loved God. I just loved Jesus, and it wasn't like, you had moments when you're a teenager and you go, what if God isn't real? But I had those moments, but I knew he was real. I'd seen people's lives change, and so that really just encapsulated like my coming to a point where I'm like, God, I'm going to be sold out for you. I was 13 when I went to the altar and I prayed, and I really made the commitment, God, I'm just going to live for you for the rest of my life, because there is nothing else. It was just a strong conviction internally as well. I wasn't really concerned about what other people were thinking. It was just like, no, Lord, I know that this is the right thing to do. So,
I mean, it's interesting to see like very 2 contrasting upbringings, like just from seeing you both there. But then thinking about actually then your early days just before you got married, like what were some of the challenges that you faced? Because you were heavily involved in the church, and you were actively in ministry and stuff like that. So what were some of the challenges that you kind of faced in those?
Seeking God, loving God, I was able to kind of forge at a young age, but kind of actually standing up and having that boldness to live for God and be a Christian at school, and all the things that happened.
The early days of Erdington were marvelous. But the sad part is that I was one leg in, one leg out. But it was really tremendous. It was fabulous. As a person got saved in Africa, seen African pastors, I never knew that you could speak to a pastor. I never knew you could have a relationship with your pastor, telling any problem, or maybe just get to be friends with a pastor, someone you can trust.
Yeah, for me, the earliest challenges was balancing my commitments to work, school. I was in school at the time, as well as working and helping with my mom, with my brothers. At the time, we are still in Uganda, Bonnie and Eli, and so balancing those commitments was incredibly difficult, which is why for most of the time I was barely in church. If I wasn't at school, I was at work, just trying to help my mom make things meet, but at the same time also trying to find time for God was a really, really tough challenge. Yeah.
Things was probably balance, and so when I got saved I was living with my parents, and I think I just really wanted to be in church as much as I could be, and one of the problems that caused was that I was never at home anymore, so I think just being a bit too zealous, but not really being wise at the same time. So even in conversations I'd have with family or friends, I was just a bit too extreme, and I think looking back that probably put people off more than it attracted them to what God had done in me, and it probably made them less.
Would you say you were Bible basher?
Yeah, I was a Bible basher. Yeah.
You're all sinners.
And
repent.
And I think what was ironic is that I was so harsh with people around me, even though I was still a new convert, even though there were still things I was struggling with, and so I probably just looked like a big hypocrite.
So I think it helped at the time I was saved. There was quite a few people my age. There was actually people from my school. Hannah, Barney's wife, being one of them, and so that helped me in the sense that there was other people my age serving God, and as time went on, people changed, the demographics of the church, and like different people come in, different people go out, and then we had a pastoral change as well. Pastor Louis came about a year after I got saved. And so that was in 2013. And so I was still obviously a new convert.
Well, my personal struggle, Christian, ministry wise, was witnessing. Yeah. I could always chat to people about God. But I felt so intimidated on the streets. Yeah. And I felt like I had no words. And I think part of that was because I was raised in church, and you just don't know how to phrase your life's testimony. We have one, clearly. And my parents were divorced, my parents split up, and I was an angry child. There was an incredible amount of frustration in me. But I never used to think that it, that testimony cut it, that everyone else was taking drugs and, doing X, Y, Z. And I was never going to do that, but I used to just think, how am I going to explain to people that I was once angry and frustrated and now I'm not? And I realise now, as you grow up and you're much more mature, you understand that it's profound. Yeah, it's an incredible testimony. But when you're younger, you just think, what? No one's going to be touched by that.
When I got saved, I was just bored. I was really bored. Yes, I enjoyed being around everyone, but because I was coming from such a chaotic life where every weekend we were clubbing and doing things, and I just felt like, okay, so this is boring. And I got saved in a really small church, Warsaw had about 6 people when I got saved. It's crazy. And I would look around and I just think, okay, God, is there more to this? Where's everyone? But when I understood how the fellowship works, and and saw people got saved, saw people change, and but I think I compared myself a lot to other people, when we'd have Victory Rally and conference and harvesters. I just look around and be like, these women are amazing. I can never compare to them. Like, I can never grow to be like them.
How did it all happen? How did the romance break into reality?
Helping me heal. God was doing lots in my heart, working on me, working on my relationship with God. And I kid you not, it kind of just fell on my lap. It's the honest truth. It fell on my lap. He started asking me about the book I was reading. And to be honest with you, I'm not even going to lie, I thought, how irritating. Because when someone's got a book, it's kind of like a sign that they don't want to chat, you know. And the book was clearly written, the names of God. But he kept asking me about this book. And then in the end, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to close the book and just talk to him. And I think that's where, like, our friendship sort of started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In that relationship.
Yes. So me and Terence, we were at the same college. We did dental nursing together. So we were friends. So we were like friends for a long time. He used to come to my house, help me with some of the work, and my brother would be there. So one of the days when he was going, he just said to my brother, "Oh, I'm going." Then my brother just said, "Oh, when are you coming proper?" He was just joking.
I get that.
Coming to marry.
Yeah.
But with me, in my mind, that didn't click.
Yeah.
Coming. I thought, next week I'll come back next week.
So you didn't even know what you were. And I was like, just guys only. And then this one,
wind of it.
she gets wind of it, and so she invites herself.
I spoke to one of the more vulnerable guys, one of the more like apologetic guys who cannot say no. It's like, hey.
Yeah.
Right.
Did she ask me? I said, no, you're not coming. Was this the angry side showing on it?
Can I come? He was like, yeah, sure. And I was like.
And so then it all happens, and then her car breaks down on the way. So we've got two cars of people. Her car breaks down. We have to call someone out, and then half of us go back in the recovery trap. But when one of the things we were already kind of like, well, not dating, but kind of liking each other. Yeah, the lights are turned on because we had known each other for years. Yeah. Not interested in any way. But we
had dated
just as friends, just as good friends or serving God together in ministry. Yeah. And then one day, kind of the lights switched on, and we realised that this could work. You know.
So how we met. So I'm not going to call it an arranged marriage, but let's say there was a lot of encouragement on both sides for us to get to know each other. And shout out to Millie, who made this all happen in a way, and the girls, Chido, Hannah, etc., etc. But yeah, so I think we were both told that we'd get on, and then when we did meet for the first time, it didn't go very well. Not bad.
So this was in Erdington.
This was in Erdington.
This was
a Christmas play.
Yeah.
And I'd heard on the grapevine that Nicole had called me arrogant because I'd come back to church after being backslidden. So
Carlton came back to church after being backslidden, and he came in a suit. And I thought to myself, wait.
What kind of backslider comes back in a suit?
Yeah.
You need to humble yourself. Come in a tracksuit.
Just wear tracksuit for 2 weeks.
So I didn't. So I think the first thing I said to her was, "Oh, so you're Nicole? You're the one that thinks I'm arrogant?" And I think I kind of just walked off. But to be honest, I think just seeing each other again over time, bumping into each other at fellowships at people's houses, we got to really know each other. And I think everything that people had said about how well we'd get on was true. And
on our first date, you spoke about your calling.
Our first date, we kind of spoke about what we both wanted. I told her that I'd felt called to preach.
Jeez, man.
That's crazy. Yeah. So then, like, I guess with calling, because you mentioned earlier that you always felt like you knew what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
When the time came and the door was knocked, how did that conversation between you two happen? Like, what was said in that room? Like, can you give us insight?
Well, it was this room, and Pastor Louis, if you're watching, whenever we see a pool table or a snooker table, it reminds me of the time when you came round, to ask about taking over Warsaw, and you brought a pool table with you, on that day. And so yeah, it was actually around this table as well that we're sitting at. Well, it was in this room.
You.
And so
He
yeah.
called you and he was like, can I come round, can I pop round for a cup of tea? Like, and it's like Pastor never pops round for a cup of tea.
It's like I thought I'm either in trouble or it's time to go.
Well, at first, as usual, first I will go to the man here. They say, all right, you go on your house first. But so, Pastor, Pastor, he just came. Oh, so, Terence, what do you think about going out? Yeah, tell me think before, maybe. And, just like, well, yeah, I would like to go out. So, have you been thinking of any towns? I said, yeah, I've been thinking of towns. Because all along in church, I've had words saying that, you're a pillar, you're a Barnabas, an encourager, you're someone just like, and for me, I'm of the furniture, and I like to be in the back seat.
Yeah.
So, the furniture going out there, right?
Okay, next one is, how has this entire journey shaped your understanding of God and his plan for your life? Big question.
Right. So I think, first of all, that God will often do things that are not part of your plan. And for us, we had a plan. There was somewhere that we wanted to go. I'd even found a building. I'd spoken to Pastor about it. I had it all figured out. And then at
Is
conference...
this referring to pioneering?
Yeah.
Yes,
so this was somewhere that we wanted to go.
A different city?
Yeah. We'll keep it confidential. But we had an idea, and that's something that we felt God wanted for us. It wasn't just it was something for a couple of years at least that was kind of in our minds and stuff, something that we'd spoken to Pastor about. And Friday morning of conference, God had a different plan, and we just had to get with the program, and thankfully we did. But I think it's just our kind of thinking sometimes is just so small.
Yeah.
And we put so many restrictions on what we think that God can do. And I think it's just seeing that, sometimes we make the mistake of kind of seeing ministry as like this progressive, this kind of linear thing, like, okay, well, first I'm going to do this, and then after that, this is what's going to happen, and then this is what's going to happen. And actually that doesn't always align with what God wants for us.
It just became real. And then, when Pastor Louis asked, my wife, she just said yes, like before Pastor Louis even finished the sentence. That's what it felt like anyway. and then
can you confirm that now? Was it okay?
And then I just said, Pastor Louis gave us, a few days to think about it. And so then I knew I was going to say yes, but I just had to digest what was
He
going
was silent for 3 days.
And I'm never silent. I talk a lot, and that time I was silent for like 3 days. Yeah. So
I can't imagine we're silent for 3 days.
Nearing seasons come and go, highs and lows. But I think when we first came, we've always wanted to reach converts. And when we first came here, we had a number of people come to our church who were not converts. And it was very helpful in the early days. Some of them, Tracy and them would outreach and bring converts. But when I was away for a while, when I was stuck in Uganda, the whole thing kind of resolved. And we had to basically start all over again. But in all that, we have a couple that have been faithful to church and, all those kinds of things. And that really is very humbling that through all the difficulties, the highs and lows, they've remained faithful. And it gives you a hope that God is not yet finished with what He started. And when new people come in church, they are not big on follow up or anything, but they will introduce themselves, they will be friendly, and they will ask about people, they will pray for them, and that kind of thing. And it's a very good thing, especially in a pioneering church, knowing that some other people also care about these converts. They're praying for them and ask after them, and it's very encouraging.
You realize that, so you realize that people are the pursuit and people are the prize. And it's God's will is all about people and serving people, and God using our lives to minister to people. The things that you do in the early stages of ministry, there's always there's always sacrifice, there's always things that you do behind the scenes that need to be done for it to happen, but you do it with such a willingness and a care and a passion, because I get to serve. I'm serving Jesus, and God's going to move for us, and these people, I want these people to know Him and to love Him, and lives to be restored and helped and blessed. And so I think it was very quickly you realize it's all about people and serving God. As much as there's pressures and tiredness and whatnot, it just is a privilege to be able to do that.